For all your news, advice and product information, visit MoneyExpert.com. Hello and welcome to MoneyExpert TV. I'm Esther Shaw and I'm joined today by Nick Sandham from energy company Eon. He's here to talk to me about what's going on in the energy market at the moment and what you can do as a consumer to keep a lid on bills. Hi there, Nick. Thanks for coming along today. Now, just before we focus a little bit more closely on the issue of energy, we're just going to take a quick look at some of the stories making the headlines. Now, Nick, one of the biggest stories this week, which is all over the front pages today, is this story about the petrol, the fear that it's going to run out in the strike. Obviously, we've got all this, concern over rising prices. What do you make of all this at the moment?
I think one of the main things that it shows over the last few months, I guess, is that this time last year, everyone was talking about the environment, about how you could be green and what you could do at home, what you could do with your car, how you could stop your flights overseas. Now it's all about price, it's all about cost, it's all about actually having the ability to use fuel.
And do you think that's, we're seeing people, the purse strings being tightened in all directions at the moment, aren't they? Do you think it's a reflection on that?
I think it is. It's got the price of oil, it affects the price of food, it affects the price of energy, it affects the price of petrol. Clearly it's having an impact on people's pockets as well. But actually it's a big shift from where we were a few months ago and a real stark change in what people are talking about. Moving
on now, let's take a closer look at the issue of energy. Now, many households have seen their gas and electricity bills go through the roof of late. And this is even more of a concern because at the moment people are feeling a real strain on their budgets in terms of higher mortgage costs, higher food costs, higher fuel costs, as we just mentioned. Now, a lot of this is being blamed, Nick, isn't it, on these sort of rising wholesale costs. But what exactly does that mean?
In terms of wholesale costs, what that means is the price that we buy energy for before we sell it on to our customers, and that's electricity and for gas. Before we announced our price increase earlier this year, the price of gas, for example, that we pay had increased by 60%. And if you look at some of the things that people are talking about at the moment, the price of gas has actually increased by 75% in wholesale terms so far this year.
And we've seen the price of oil go up tremendously, haven't we? It's broken through sort of all record levels, hasn't it?
It has, and that affects the price of gas, for example. Obviously, oil and gas come from the same fields, if you like, overseas and in the North Sea, for example.
And what do you think we're going to see now? There's been some speculation, hasn't there, by some parties saying that we could see price rises of maybe 30% or 40% later on this year. I mean, do you think it's going to be as big as that?
Oh, it's hard to tell. Obviously, the price of oil affects the price of gas. The wholesale market is increasing rapidly at the moment, 75% since the start of this year. What we're trying to do for our customers is advise them to take our price protection products. Many suppliers do fixed price products now. Ours is the only one that actually will reduce in price if the wholesale market reduces too. In terms of a fixed price, it means you can have that peace of mind over coming months, and I think that's going to be really important.
At the moment, as we're saying, there's an awful lot of doom and gloom in the energy market, but the good news is that there are some steps that you can take as a consumer to keep a lid on those bills. And one of the simplest things you can do is actually just to switch supplier. Particularly if you've never switched before, then you really should look at what else is on offer elsewhere, as there are probably some more competitive or cheaper deals out there. And in fact, findings from Consumer Body Which show that you could, if you've never switched before, you could actually save £300 a year by switching. Now, Nick, tell us a bit more about the switching process then. I mean, there are concerns on that. I think people are worried it's going to be very complicated, they're going to, end up paying the wrong amount, or they're going to get cut off. I mean, are those realistic concerns or not?
Well, they are concerns that people have, and if you look at the statistics, almost half the people in the UK have never ever switched. They're with British Gas for gas and their local supplier for electricity.
That's a very high number, isn't it?
It is. It's a remarkable number given the amount of switching that does take place, the amount of switching sites that are available as well, and the amount of promotion that takes place by those sites. You see a lot of sites now on TV advertising that you can switch through them. So many customers could save a lot of money by just switching to a cheaper provider. And it is relatively straightforward. Contact your new supplier, they'll do everything for you. It takes between 4 and 6 weeks. The key thing for a consumer is make sure you know what your meter readings are.
So you need to take those before you actually switch them, don't you?
Absolutely. Make sure that your old supplier has the meter readings and your new supplier has them as well, so the crossover is seamless.
But there's no changes to pipes or wires or anything like that, are there, if you switch?
No, it's the same wires, the same pipes, the same electricity, the same gas that comes out. It's just who you pay that's different.
But what about these online deals? I mean, online deals are now much cheaper, aren't they, than the sort of comparative standard tariff?
Many suppliers are using online as a way to promote lower prices. It's not about it being a cheaper unit rate, it's about it being a bigger discount. Our online tariff, for example, the standard online tariff we have is 11% discount against our standard quarterly product. It's a real competitive market, real bargains to be had online and easy to switch to as well.
So it's quite good news really for consumers, isn't it? There are some simple steps you can take just to keep those prices down.
There are, and even though prices are going up in terms of wholesale prices, there are things you can do to try and minimise your costs.
Thanks very much for that, Nick.
Thank you.
Moving on now, it's competition time. If you fancy yourself as a bit of a money expert yourself and want to win one of our Money Expert mugs, then all you need to do is answer this simple question. If you've never switched supplier before, how much money could you save according to Consumer Body which? Is it A, £100, B, £200, or C, £300? Send us your answers to quiz@moneyexpert.com. That's just about all for this week. I'd just like to say thank you to Nick Sandham from Eon for joining me today. Thanks very much, Nick.
Thank you.
And to say, do join us again next week on Money Expert TV. Bye for now.